Hello guys, as all you know, CYC has introduced completely new controller to their motors called X6. You can see it here in my hands. So in this movie I will compare it with the ASI BAC 855 controller, install this controller on the bike and test the motor, how it works. So watch it to the end. Let's do some comparison with the ASI BAC 855 controllers. As you can see on the table, I have two of them. On the right side you can see the one I will be replacing. This one is like 3 or 4 years old and it stopped working suddenly for no reason. So as you can see, I just dismantled it to see the interiors of it. But that's not the point of this movie, so I will just go further. In the center you can see like the newer generation of this 855 controller, which was sold by CYC for around 1 or 2 years. This one was coming with improved sealing of this GAST connector. That was the weakest point of the previous generation, I can call it. This connector was completely exposed to water, so it was causing many failures, as all you know. Many complaints on the CYC forum about that, myself as well. So CYC decided to improve design with this. And here on the left you can see the latest controller, this X6 one. So you can see the size comparison. It's much wider, but the length is approximately the same. It's noticeably heavier. You can take a scale and I will show you what is the measurement of this. So I will just put aside this BAC and start talking about this new controller. So as you can see, all the cabling is going from one side. Everything is nicely seal potted, so there is no longer exposed connections as in ASI controller. That means that you can keep this controller exposed to elements for better cooling. And you can see the surface of this controller has the ribs to improve the airflow. Will help to cool it down. Here you can see the cabling. So no revolution here. It's practically the same. I noticed the only difference is a different connector to the speed sensor. The previous one had like 3 pins, this one has 6. So CYC sent me the new speed sensor as well. So be aware of it, that you will get the new one together with this controller if you decide to replace this ASI controller with this one. Let's look on the dimensions of this controller. The length of it is around 9 centimeters. And the width is 8.5. The thickness, see, it shows 3.5 centimeters. Here you can see the front face. You will notice this metal mounting bracket with 2 nuts on both sides. That's a good thing, so you don't have to fiddle with loose nuts at the back of the place as it was before for this previous mounting brackets. This nut here is pre-welded to the metal plate, so you need access only from one side. That helps a lot during installation. CYC sent me also this metal plate, which can be used to help mounting this controller underneath the motor. I'll be installing this on the stealth, so probably I'll just skip this bracket, which is designed mainly for Pro version, as I reckon. I can just show you quickly how it's mounted. Basically, you have 4 openings here, which match the screw holes at the back of this controller, these ones. So you can place the controller like this and attach it here with this with the screws which are coming with this set. Since I have only one hand, then I cannot show you how to do it. But as I see, this cabling, when this controller is in the position, can be fed through this big opening here. So you can simulate like this is the top surface, the cables are going out to the motor. And then you have this surface exposed to the airflow. This one or another one. Since I have this BAC 855 controller on the table, I can just say something about the peak current the new controller can supply to the motor. I don't want to go into details about the electrical stuff. I'm not an electrical engineer myself, but you can find information on the internet that these elements visible here, called capacitors, are responsible for supplying the current to the motor. And as you can see on this example, they are quite big. It's approximately 2 centimeters length and 1.5 in diameter. BAC 855 has only 2 of them. And as I saw it on the CYC pictures, this X6 has 6, as I remember. That's a big difference, as you can see, and that explains also why this new controller is way bigger than the 855 controller. But that's good, since this can supply, as I remember, around 90 amperes in the peak, and the X6 controller around 120. Seems like not big difference, but since this one has more capacitors, they will be less utilized, and probably this will affect also the lifetime of the controller in a positive way. Here you can see also the MOSFETs on the board and all the electronics. So, as you can see, all these power generating elements are taking the most space inside of the controller. Electronics are tiny. In front of me you can see the bike I'll be installing, this X6 controller. As I mentioned before, it will be paired with CYC X1 stealth motor. This is the first generation. Keep in mind this. Since this new one has slightly different geometry. You can see all the cabling. I just fitted this back into position, 5 wires and this whole sensor connector. Here is the cable to the torque sensor. I will have to replace this old speed sensor with a new one. But in general, all the cabling remains the same. That's a good thing. I have this 500C display, by the way. Yeah. And just a word of precaution, whatever you do on your bike, always disconnect the battery. If the battery is connected and you start unplugging the cables, most likely you will get some kind of short circuit, and in the worst case you can fry the controller. So beware. Alright, the controller is installed. I'll show you the view around the motor and the controller. Hope you see all the details. So I didn't have to adapt anything on the motor. I used the holes used for installing this ASI BAC bracket. I had to drill the bigger hole, 5 mm, for the screw which will fit this new controller. You can see how the cabling is going. It's quite tidy. I have these cables exposed, but no, it's not in conflict with any chain or tire, so there is no risk of damaging them. You don't see this very well from this perspective when bike is pointing downwards, but when it will be standing on the ground level, the surface of this controller will be like tilted in this position towards the direction of riding. So this seal will be facing downwards, and there won't be any risk of actually water starting to leak into this opening, you can call it. The seal is quite soft. That's a good thing, because these harder ones tend to not engulfing properly the cable, and then you can have like minor leak. So that's how the whole assembly looks like. I'll put the battery and I will show you how it works. I was wrong saying that this metal bracket is only for X1 Pro motor. When I check in detail the manual from CYC, it's written that actually can be used also for a stealth motor. But in my case I had to do some modifications to this bracket. This top plate was in conflict with the frame, since I have a carbon bike. And these wires going outside of the bottom bracket, this metal plate will be clashing in this area here. Therefore I had to cut it off, as you can see. So after this looks like it. There was quite a lot of sharp edges, I had to grind them off. Now I will secure it with primer and paint, so it will not rust. And after that I will put this plastic sleeve to protect the cables from this edge. Here you can see the controller connected with this mounting bracket. So this is actually a very good solution to protect this back side of the controller from all the rocks other stuff. But as you can see, there is a drainage here, so water will not be accumulating behind the controller. Here you can see the controller installed with this additional bracket. So hard to say which solution is better, but definitely with this one you have extra protection for the cables. But the consequence of using this bracket that the controller is a little bit lower, around 3 centimeters, as I see it. But with this bracket, it looks much more professional. There's no doubt about it. You have very good protection for all the cabling. Here you can see what kind of clearance I have. Just enough to pull all the extra cables from torque sensor, speed sensor, this braking hose, and the gear shifter. Okay, installation is finished, all the cables are secured. I'll just show you quickly how it works on the throttle. So as you can see, you can smoothly regulate the power. Unfortunately, since back is standing on the stand, I am not able to test the torque sensor. I'll have to take the bike on the right to check how sensitive it is and so on. So I'll just show you quickly how this new application works, and then I think that would be all. Okay, you can see the screen of this new application. Since this is new controller, probably CYC couldn't adapt the old application, so they make a new one. So here is the connection interface. It's using Bluetooth. Here you can see the motor which is available to connect, so probably you just need to click on it. And then you will see the main screen. Follow the information, speed, which mode you are riding on, assist level, battery voltage. So all important information are shown here. It's motor power, cadence, and human power from torque sensor. So here is the menu with settings. Here you can change the motor you want to pair this controller with. So there is when you click on it, in this window you have a selection of the motors. So as you can see, you can scroll through the whole spec of CYC motors. I have Steph generation 1, so I'll just keep it like that, I will not save it. And then you can change, adapt all the settings. This menu looks more simplified comparing to the ASI one, which is good. Wait, I didn't like, to be honest, this ASI menu. It was very complicated and you didn't see a much big difference when you were adapting different settings. And actually, for the unexperienced user, in my opinion, it's better to keep a simplified menu, so you are not feel tempted with checking what every function change in the motor. And very often people when start tampering with the settings in ASI controller, the motor just stopped working properly. Okay, so that's all. And now it's time to take this bike for test.